Hello, it's Jeff. Welcome back to the Long Suffering channel. It's been a few weeks since I made a video. Certain things have happened in my personal life, none of which that I'll sit here and complain about, but things have been taking priority over sports. But I'm back with another video. In today's video, we're gonna focus on the Rangers, the New York Rangers. So far, they're 11 games into their 2024-25 season. And if you just look at the statistics, and I have the NHL.com statistics page here, if you just look at their statistics, they're doing very well. They're 8-2-1 so far. They have the third best points percentage in the entire league. They've also played among the fewest games in the league, so when it comes to actual points, they're actually number 9. But that's only because they've played fewer games than pretty much anybody. I mean, some teams have played 14 games. So you're looking at the points percentage, and they're third. And you look at goals against, they're number 1 in the whole league. They've given up the fewest goals per game in the entire league, 2.18 goals per game. As far as goals scored are concerned, they're 5th in the league with 4 goals a game. They have a plus 20 goal differential, which is, I believe, the best in the Eastern Conference. Their power play statistically has been very good. They're 6th right now. Penalty killing, they're 2nd behind Nashville. So statistically, they go off to a very good start, 8-2-1. Coming off last year's President's Trophy record-setting season, you weren't sure how they were going to treat this regular season. Teams don't win back-to-back President's Trophies. So typically, if they have a record-setting regular season, the next season was a little less successful, we'll put it that way. But so far, they're off to an 8-2-1 record. I and many other Ranger fans have not been impressed, despite what the record and the stats are saying. Opening night, they went into Pittsburgh. They demolished the Penguins 6-0, pure domination. It was like a major league team against a minor league team. It was really, really quite a spanking. But ever since then, the team, I mean, yeah, they're winning, but they haven't looked great. The home opener against Utah, they looked terrible. I was at the game, and the amount of grade A scoring opportunities that Utah had was disgraceful. I mean, for them to be that bad defensively was really, really hard to watch. I mean, in overtime, they just let Clayton Keller, Utah's best player, they left him all alone in the defensive zone. He skated right in without any defense. No Ranger was anywhere around him. He skated in. He flipped it over Shesterkin's shoulder, and they lost the game in overtime. And I think what started setting off the alarm bells even more was their game against Florida, the rematch of last year's playoff series. And it was very similar to what we saw in last year's playoff series. Florida was the better team. I mean, the Rangers did have some really good scoring opportunities, and Sergei Bobrovsky was outstanding. But once Florida got the lead, they just clamped down, and they gave the Rangers nothing. And as we know, those of us that have seen this team over these last several years, we know really good defensive teams can shut the Rangers down. And they barely got a sniff the third period. When they needed to turn it on, they weren't very good at all. And Florida won the game. And then the Rangers went to Washington, a rematch of the first round series from last season. And even though the final score was 5-3, it wasn't. The final score was deceiving because Washington completely dominated every aspect of the game. And only Igor Shesterkin, who must have made about 20 unbelievable saves that game. If it wasn't for him, it would have been like a 12-3 score. I mean, that's how much Washington dominated. And then the Rangers had another game against Ottawa in which they weren't very good, but Shesterkin was standing on his head, as the saying goes, and they won 2-1. And then they had the game Sunday against the Islanders, a depleted Islander team who I thought were the better team. I thought the Islanders played better. But Shesterkin, again, stood on his head, made a ton of incredible saves, and the skill of the Rangers eventually took over. Panarin scored, and Panarin scored that big power play goal, which was huge. And then the Rangers were eventually, it started with the Kreider shorthanded goal. I mean, that's Ranger hockey, essentially, right? You do nothing, you do nothing, you do nothing, and then your great players do great things, and your goaltending makes it stand up, and they find a way to win. That's the MO of this core. And this isn't a machine. This isn't like Boston was in their heyday, or Florida is, or somebody like Dallas is a machine. They come at you with line after line after line, and they just wear you down. Carolina wears you down with each shift, each line. The Rangers look like they skate through quicksand, and then Panarin or Lafreniere or whoever, somebody will do something great, and it'll flip the game somehow, and somehow the Rangers end up winning. And that's been their formula, which doesn't work once you get deeper into the playoffs. But that's kind of where I want to focus on. I know I've been rambling a bit, but where I'm getting at is, statistically and record and with all these stats here, they look great in the first 11 games, but I don't think they look great at all. They're relying way too much on Shesterkin. They're relying way too much on the special teams. And that'll win you regular season games, and that'll get you a round or two. But once you get to the conference finals and everything kind of stiffens up, you have to raise your game to beat Tampa Bay in 2022 or Florida last year. And based on what we've seen so far, I don't think this team is capable, as it's currently constructed, to get over that hump. Could the Rangers get lucky and maybe Florida gets knocked out in an upset in the early rounds, and when they get to the conference finals, do they play a Detroit, a Buffalo, and Ottawa? I think that's certainly possible. But Florida is built for the playoffs. They're built for playoff success. 2 straight Eastern Conference championships for them. And they will likely be in the conference finals again. They're that good, and they're that deep, and they're that well coached. And if anybody thinks that this Ranger team, as currently constructed, is going to win a Stanley Cup, I don't see it. They just don't have a game that translates to playoff success once you get into the third round and then subsequently the finals. You have to be able to score 5-on-5. Can't rely on your power play. And I did some research. In the 4 games that they lost to Tampa in 2022, and in the 4 games they lost to Florida, those 8 games, they scored two 5-on-5 goals. 2 5-on-5 goals. One was Ryan Lindgren against Tampa in Game 5. The other was Alex Lafreniere in Game 4 against Florida. Those were their only 5-on-5 goals in the 4 games that they lost in the series that they lost. 2 5-on-5 goals in 8 games. You want to know why they lost those series? That's it. They can't score 5-on-5 when they need to. And they also didn't score much 5-on-5 against the Devils in 2023, and that first round disaster. Once the power play dried up and once they needed 5-on-5 goals, they couldn't do it. Even against a suspect defensive team like the Devils with Akira Schmidt in goal, who Carolina exposed. I mean, is Schmidt even in the NHL anymore? I think he's buried in a minor league somewhere. He wasn't a good goalie, but the Rangers made him look like Ken Dryden circa 1977. Anything can happen. It's November 7th, I know, and you shouldn't be that crazy so far away from the playoffs. But it's the same problems. It's the same mistakes committed by the same people. Keandre Miller, he's not getting better. He's regressing. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. Adam Fox, great player, great defenseman, Norris Trophy winner. Most of the time, he looks like he's just kind of going through the motions out there. In the last game against the Islanders, he had 2 different times when he shot the puck into the crowd for a delay game penalty. That's inexcusable for anybody, especially a player of the caliber of Fox. That's laziness. That's lack of focus. You can't do that. You can't do it anytime, much less twice in the same game. Fox has yet to score a goal this year. He does have, I believe, 9 assists, but I don't think he's been as Adam Fox-like. The excuse for him in the playoffs last year was his knee. He had a knee injury, and that kind of took away some of his agility and mobility. Well, what's the excuse now? He's fully healthy. If Adam Fox has a no-trade clause that kicks in after this season, this may sound sacrilege, but I'm not saying trade him or dump him, but maybe it's a conversation. Because the way this team plays defense, it's not sustainable. Jacob Trouba will almost assuredly be gone. Ryan Lindgren will almost assuredly be gone. I hope Keandre Miller is gone. I think you have to really revamp this team defense, this core of defensemen and the way they play, because they're just not good enough. You can't be that loose in the defensive zone in the playoffs, because teams like Florida will devour you. And I know we've beaten Carolina in the playoffs, but that's because our goaltending is so much better than theirs. I don't think we've outplayed them. But Shesterkin was fantastic in both those series, and Antti Raanta in 2022, and Freddie Anderson this past May or June. They really weren't all that good, and they didn't make the big saves when his team needed him to. So if we face Carolina again, I don't know if we can beat them for that third time, because the way they play is the exact style is exactly how you beat the Rangers. You get pucks deep on the Rangers and you forecheck their defense, and their defense will make mistakes. They will. They're just not good enough. And maybe it's a subconscious thing where they know, well, I don't have to pay close attention to detail because Igor will bail me out. Maybe that is their mindset. I don't know if that is, and that's not. You can't play that way. The way this team plays, the way they're constructed, I just don't see them being able to win 16 playoff games unless they get really, really lucky, and the teams they struggle against, like Florida, get knocked out in the early rounds. Again, if they play Carolina again, eventually Carolina's going to figure out how to beat them. And maybe they get the good goaltending that they need. Maybe you get lucky and, I don't know, you face a Philadelphia or you face an Islanders, team that you can beat. The Rangers will have or should have about $6 million in cap space when they get to the deadline. I mean, that's the way it is now. And they have to use that money to make their team better defensively. I personally, because Keandre Miller's in a contract year and he's going to want his 8-year extension, I don't see a world in which you can commit $8 million to a player like him who's just so inconsistent. I personally would look to trade him at the deadline for a much better defensive, physical, tough defenseman. That's what I would do. Now, Miller might blossom one day into an all-star. He might blossom one day to a Norris Trophy candidate. He's got that type of ability. But just like in 1994, when you sacrificed Darren Turcotte, Tony Amonte, when you sacrificed good young players for the Steve Larmers and the Stefan Matteaus and the Brian Noonans, and then the year before you traded Doug Wade for Esa Tikkanen. Those are the types of players that you need to win the Stanley Cup. And if they can bring in just a big, mean, tough, physical defenseman, right, that's going to stand in front of the net and just pound anybody that dares to stand in front of Igor. That's what they need, because that's what Florida has, and that's what Tampa Bay had when they won their cups. Toughness, meanness. If you're going to dare stand in front of our net, you're going to get your butt kicked. So trade deadline is several months away. Playoffs are several months away. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. But I just don't like what I've been seeing from the Rangers these last 5 or 6 games. It's not sustainable. You can't rely on Shesterkin or Quick or anybody to stand on their head every single game. A goalie can only do so much. You got to help out your goalie. You got to play better defense. You got to stop with the dumb mistakes. And you got to play a better team brand of hockey. Because when the Rangers win, it's Panarin does something great. Lafreniere does something great. Zibanejad does something great. And that propels them to victory. It's like just a bunch of guys getting out together on a pond somewhere in Canada. A bunch of talented guys just going through the motions and, hey, yeah, we'll flip the switch and we'll win the game. Why not? Sure. It's not sustainable. So hopefully on the next time I make a video about the Rangers, they'll look better. They play Buffalo tonight. Buffalo stinks again. Talk about a team that just can't get it all together. Tonight's a game that you have to show them who's boss. Come out from the first minute of the game, take control of the game, and break their will in the first period. They are not a good team. Come out there, hit, skate, be smart, play solid defense, and break their spirit, break their spine. And Saturday, Detroit again for the third time in this young season. Another young team struggling, can't seem to put it together. And then next week, we have Winnipeg, the best team in the league, and San Jose, the worst team in the league. So, Winnipeg's going to be a challenge, but San Jose is another game that they should win. And then they go out west for a 4-game Western swing. So, more opportunity for them to win games, collect points. The more points you get in October and November, the fewer points you need in April. So let's hope they improve. Let's hope they keep winning and gathering points. Let's hope that they can start to calm my fears a bit. Okay? We'll see you next time. Go Rangers.